Have you ever walked into your own home and suddenly felt something was off? Not because of what you could see, but because of what you could feel. The house is the same, the people are the same, but the peace feels different. And you start wondering quietly, what is happening in my home? Because sometimes the evil eye does not announce itself loudly. It enters silently, through jealousy, through hidden envy, through careless admiration. And that is why today's reminder is so important. Because protecting your home is not only physical, it is spiritual. And if you want your home to remain a place of barakah, safety, and tranquility, stay with me until the end, because the last sign is one most people ignore. Welcome back to the Peace Whisper. And before we begin, if reminders like this bring comfort to your heart, take a moment to subscribe so you can stay connected to weekly Islamic reflections that protect your peace and strengthen your faith. Now listen carefully. The evil eye is real. The Prophet I warned us about it, and it can affect families, homes, relationships, and even the smallest blessings. So what are the signs that it may have entered your space? Let's reflect together. Sometimes the first sign is not dramatic, it is emotional. You notice that the warmth in the home is disappearing. Small arguments begin over nothing. The love feels strained. The patience feels shorter. You look at your family and think, why are we suddenly so irritated with each other? The evil eye often attacks harmony first, because Shaitan loves a home where hearts are divided, and the evil eye can open the door for that division. The second sign, sudden and unexplained negativity. A home that once felt calm now feels heavy. You feel drained when you enter. You feel uncomfortable for no reason. Even when everything should be fine, something feels spiritually tight, and you may think, maybe I'm overthinking. But deep down, your soul senses what your eyes cannot see. The third sign, blessings start slipping away. Things break more often. Money feels tighter even when income is the same. Plans don't work out. You feel like you're always fixing something, always struggling with something. Not because Allah has abandoned you, but because envy targets blessings, and the evil eye often strikes what is most precious in your life. The fourth sign, sudden changes in health or energy inside the household. Family members feel unusually tired. Children become restless. You feel mentally foggy. Not every sickness is spiritual, but sometimes, when exhaustion comes without clear reason, it is worth turning to protection through Quran, because the Quran is Shifa, and Allah is the greatest protector. Now the fifth sign, and this one is deeply important, you begin to feel distant from worship inside the home. The Quran is played less, prayer feels harder, the home feels spiritually dry, because one of the greatest goals of the evil eye is not just to harm your dunya, but to weaken your connection with Allah. So what do? First, do not panic. Do not live in fear. A believer does not fear envy, because a believer knows the one who controls all things. You protect your home the way the Prophet taught. Recite Surah Al-Baqarah, read Ayat Al-Kursi, make morning and evening adkar, say Mashallah and Barakallah over your blessings. And most importantly, fill your home with Quran the way you fill it with light, because evil cannot survive where Allah is remembered. And let me tell you something beautiful. The evil eye may enter quietly, but Allah's protection is stronger. So here's a question for you. Have you ever felt one of these signs in your home? Comment below. Allah is my protector, so we can make dua for each other. And please share this video with someone you love, because protecting a home is protecting a family. And may Allah fill your house with peace, barakah, and nur, and keep every jealous eye far away from your blessings. Stay close, because the next reminder may be exactly what your heart needs. Sometimes, one of the very first signs that the evil eye has entered a home is not something you can touch or measure. It is something you feel happening between the people inside it. Because before anything breaks, before money feels tight, before health feels heavy, the evil eye often attacks the harmony of the household. It starts quietly, a small misunderstanding, a short temper, a cold response, and suddenly the home that once felt warm begins to feel tense. You may look at your family and wonder, why are we arguing so much lately? It's not even about big issues, it's over the smallest things. Someone forgets something, and it becomes a fight. Someone speaks a little sharply, and it turns into hours of silence. Someone makes a simple comment, and it feels like a wound. And what makes it even more confusing is that deep down, you still love each other. You still care. So why does everything feel so irritated? This is why the Prophet taught us that the evil eye is real. Because envy does not only target your wealth or your beauty, it targets your peace. It targets the blessings that cannot be replaced. And one of the greatest blessings Allah gives a family is love between their hearts. When the evil eye enters, it can create an invisible tension. People become easily triggered. Patience becomes thin. Gentleness disappears. And the home becomes emotionally exhausting. Sometimes, a woman feels it first. She notices that her home doesn't feel like a safe space anymore. She feels like she is constantly walking carefully, trying not to upset anyone. She feels like even her efforts are misunderstood. She cooks, she cleans, she cares. But instead of appreciation, she feels criticism. Instead of warmth, she feels coldness. And she starts asking herself quietly, why Allah? What is happening to us? And sometimes the evil eye comes from outside, not always from someone who openly hates you. Sometimes from someone who admired you too much without saying, Mashallah. Someone saw your happy family. Someone saw your peaceful home. Someone saw your blessings. And their heart felt something dark, even if they didn't intend it. That is why we must protect our homes, because not everyone who looks at your life looks with purity, and conflict inside the home is one of the quickest ways blessings begin to slip away. Shaitan loves division, and when the evil eye opens the door, Shaitan rushes in to make it worse. A husband and wife begin to misunderstand each other. Parents become impatient with children. Children become disobedient and restless. Everyone feels emotionally on edge, and you start thinking, we were not like this before. That is the key phrase. We were not like this before. When conflict becomes constant and unnatural, when love feels blocked, when the home feels like it is missing mercy, it is time to pause and seek protection, because Allah did not create marriage to be constant tension. Allah did not create family to be constant stress. Allah created homes to be places of sakina, tranquility. And the evil eye tries to steal that sakina first. So what do? You do not accuse people. You do not fall into paranoia. You do not live in fear. You return to Allah. You increase Quran in your home. You recite Surah Al-Baqarah, because the Prophet told us that Shaitan flees from a house where it is recited. You read Ayat al-Kursi. You make morning and evening adhkar. You say Bismillah when you enter. You teach your children to seek Allah's protection. And you remind yourself when not every argument is evil eye, but when conflict becomes constant without reason, when peace disappears suddenly, when love feels strained in a way that doesn't make sense, it may be a spiritual warning to strengthen the shield around your home. Because the most beautiful homes are not the biggest ones, they are the ones protected by Allah's remembrance. Sometimes the evil eye does not show itself through loud problems. It shows itself through something much quieter, a feeling, a heaviness, a strange atmosphere that settles into the home like an unseen fog. This is why so many people say, I don't know what it is, but something feels off. Nothing looks different on the outside. The furniture is the same. The rooms are the same. Life is moving forward. But inside the heart, inside the chest, there is discomfort, a spiritual tightness that cannot be explained with logic. And this is one of the signs that the evil eye may have entered your space, because the evil eye does not always destroy immediately. Sometimes it drains. It slowly removes the sweetness of peace. A woman may walk into her home and feel unsettled. She may sit down and still feel restless. She may feel like her home is no longer a place of comfort, even though she cannot point to a single reason why. And that is what makes it so confusing. You begin to question yourself. Am I overthinking? Am I just stressed? But deep down, your soul recognizes when the spiritual air has changed, because the believer's heart is sensitive. Allah has placed fitra inside you, and sometimes you sense heaviness before you see evidence. This heavy atmosphere can show up in different ways. Some homes begin to feel unusually cold emotionally. People speak less, smiles disappear. The warmth that once filled the space begins to fade. It's not that anyone did something major, but the energy feels different. Even laughter feels distant. Even gatherings feel forced. And sometimes, you notice that the home feels heavier at certain times. At night, anxiety increases. Overthinking becomes stronger. Sleep becomes difficult. You lie down, but your mind does not rest. You feel uneasy, even though nothing dangerous is happening. And this is why protection matters, because evil does not always attack with chaos. Sometimes it attacks with emotional weight, with spiritual discomfort, with a heaviness that makes the home feel tight. The evil eye can create this atmosphere because it affects barakah. Barakah is not something you can physically hold, but you feel it when it is present. A small home with barakah feels wide. A simple meal with barakah feels satisfying. A family with barakah feels rich even without wealth. But when barakah is reduced, everything feels harder. the home feels spiritually dry, the air feels heavy, and even small tasks feel exhausting. You may notice that you feel drained more quickly inside the house. You leave the home and feel lighter. You return and feel tight again. And you begin to wonder why your own space no longer feels like peace. Sometimes, the evil eye enters through blessings that were admired. Someone saw your home. Someone saw your marriage. Someone saw your children. Someone saw your comfort. And their heart held envy, even quietly. Not everyone who envies speaks it. Sometimes it is hidden. And that is why the Prophet A taught us to seek Allah's protection consistently, not only when something feels wrong, but as a daily shield, because the believer does not wait for harm. The believer lives with spiritual awareness. So what do you do when your home feels heavy? You do not panic. You do not become obsessed with fear. You do not accuse every visitor or every friend. Instead, you turn your home back into a place of dhikr. You fill the atmosphere with Quran. Play Surah Al-Baqarah regularly, even if it is just a little each day. Recite Ayat al-Kursi, especially before sleeping. Read the last two surahs, Al-Falaq and An-Nas, because they are specifically protection from envy and hidden harm. Say Bismillah when entering. Make dua that Allah fills your home with light. And remember, a home that remembers Allah cannot remain heavy for long, because darkness cannot stay where Rome enters. This heaviness is not a punishment. It is often a reminder, a call back to spiritual protection, a sign that your home needs more calm, more zeen, more remembrance, because the evil eye may enter quietly, but Allah's protection is stronger than anything unseen. One of the most painful signs that the evil eye may have entered a home is when blessings begin to slip away in a way that feels constant and unexplained. Not because Allah has stopped providing, not because you are abandoned, but because something has targeted the barakah in what you have. And barakah is one of the greatest gifts Allah places into our lives. Barakah is what makes little feel like enough. Barakah is what makes a small income stretch. Barakah is what makes a home feel peaceful, even if it is not perfect. Barakah is what makes ordinary moments feel sweet. But when the evil eye touches a blessing, sometimes the first thing you notice is not a dramatic loss. It is a slow leaking, a constant feeling that things are slipping through your fingers. You may notice that money disappears quickly. You earn, but it never feels like it stays. Unexpected expenses keep coming. Something always needs fixing. Something always breaks. A car repair, a medical bill, a sudden problem that drains what you worked hard for. And you start thinking, why does it feel like we can never get ahead? Or you may notice that your home used to feel full of ease, and now everything feels difficult. Even simple plans become complicated. Even happy moments feel interrupted. Even progress feels blocked. The evil eye often targets what is most precious, and sometimes the most precious thing is not luxury, it is stability. It is peace. It is the quiet blessing of things going smoothly. The Prophet warned us that the evil eye is real, and it can affect a person's life deeply. And many scholars remind us that envy does not always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from people close. Sometimes it comes from admiration without remembrance of Allah. Someone sees your new home. Someone sees your happy family. Someone sees your success. Someone sees your comfort. And they speak about it openly. Or they hold something in their heart quietly. Even if they do not intend harm, the evil eye can still strike. That is why the believer learns to protect blessings before showing them. To say, Mashallah, often. To remember that every blessing is from Allah. Because envy loves to look at what shines. And blessings shine. Sometimes you also notice that things inside the home begin to break more than usual. Appliances stop working. Objects fall. Things wear out quickly. And you think, is this normal? One thing after another. Not once, not twice, but constantly. And it creates stress. It creates emotional exhaustion. Because you feel like you are always fixing life. Always repairing something. Always trying to hold things together. This is why the evil eye is so dangerous. It does not always destroy suddenly. Sometimes it drains slowly. It removes ease. It removes sweetness. It removes barakah. And that is why it feels like blessings are disappearing. Even when you still have so much, a woman may say, I should be grateful, but I feel overwhelmed. A family may say, we have what we need, but why does it feel heavy? That heaviness is often the absence of barakah, because barakah is not measured by quantity. It is measured by peace, by contentment, by the feeling that Allah is placing goodness in what you have. So what you do when blessings feel like they are slipping away? You do not fall into despair. You do not assume Allah is angry with you. You do not live in fear of people. Instead, you return to the one who owns every blessing. You return to Allah. You increase gratitude because shukr protects blessings. You increase zugo because charity blocks harm in ways you cannot see. You recite Surah Al-Baqarah because the Prophet told us that shaitan flees from a home where it is recited. You recite Al-Falaq and An-Nas because they are direct protection from envy. You make dua that Allah places barakah back into your home, and you become careful with what you share. Not everyone needs access to your blessings. Not everyone needs to know every detail, because some eyes look with love, and some eyes look with envy. And the believer is wise, not paranoid, wise, trusting Allah but taking the means of protection, because blessings are a trust, and protecting them is part of hindra. Sometimes one of the signs that the evil eye may have entered a home is not something you notice through events, but through the bodies and energy of the people living inside it. A sudden exhaustion, a tiredness that feels unusual, a heaviness that settles on the household without a clear reason. And this is one of the ways the evil eye can affect a family, because when envy touches a blessing, it can touch the people who carry that blessing too. You may notice that you or your family members feel drained more than normal, not just physically tired, but emotionally tired, mentally tired. Even after sleeping, you wake up feeling heavy. Even after resting, you still feel foggy, and you start wondering, why do we feel like this? Children may become restless. They may cry more often. They may struggle with sleep. They may suddenly become irritable or clingy. And a mother feels helpless because she cannot explain what has changed. A husband may come home feeling unusually stressed. A wife may feel overwhelmed by simple tasks. Everyone feels like their energy has dropped. And the strange part is, there is no clear medical reason, no obvious cause, no big life change that explains it. This is why the scholars remind us that not every sickness is spiritual, but sometimes spiritual harm can show itself through physical symptoms. The Prophet taught us that the evil eye is real, and he also taught us the cure, because Islam does not leave us fearful. Islam gives us protection. But first, we must recognize the signs. Unexplained exhaustion can be one of them, especially when it spreads through the home. One person feels heavy, then another. The atmosphere becomes sluggish, motivation disappears, joy feels distant. Even worship begins to feel harder, and you may start thinking, why Allah? What is happening to us? Sometimes, the evil eye affects the blessings of health, because health is one of the greatest blessings. And when someone envies you, they may not envy your money, they may envy your peace, your family, your strength, your stability, your life, and the evil eye strikes what is most precious. That is why we must never take health lightly, and we must protect ourselves and our loved ones with consistent remembrance. Sometimes, the exhaustion feels like a weight on the chest. Anxiety increases for no reason. Overthinking becomes constant. You feel emotionally sensitive. Small things feel harder than they should, and you begin to feel like your home is not giving you rest anymore. Even inside your own space, you feel unsettled. And this is one of the ways barakah is reduced, because when barakah is present, even hardship feels manageable. But when barakah is removed, even ease feels heavy. So what should you do when you notice this sign? First, do not panic. Do not assume everything is spiritual. Islam teaches balance. Seek medical help when needed. Take care of your body. Rest, eat well. But at the same time, do not neglect spiritual protection, because the believer protects both the body and the soul. Begin with the sunnah. Recite the morning and evening adhkar. They are not optional decorations, they are shields. Read Ayat al-Kursi daily, especially before sleeping. Recite Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas. These surahs were revealed specifically for protection from envy, harm, and the unseen. Play Surah Al-Baqarah in your home. The Prophet told us that shaitan flees from the house where it is recited. And remember, when shaitan flees, heaviness lifts, darkness lifts, peace returns. Also, increase dua. Ask Allah to remove any harm that has touched your family. Ask Allah to return energy, health, and tranquility. And give charity, because this zago is a cure. It blocks harm in ways we do not understand. Sometimes the evil eye enters through admiration. Someone sees your children and speaks without saying, Mashallah. Someone sees your life and comments carelessly. That is why we must protect our blessings with Allah's name. Say, Mashallah Tabarakallah often, over your home, over your family, over your children, over every blessing. Because the believer knows, not everyone who looks at you looks with purity, and the believer does not live afraid, but lives protected, because no harm touches you except by Allah's permission. and no protection is stronger than the one who created you. When exhaustion spreads without reason, when heaviness fills the home, let it be a reminder to return to the shield of Kern, one of the most subtle and dangerous signs that the evil eye may have entered a home is not something people talk about often, because it doesn't show up in the furniture, it doesn't show up in money, it doesn't even show up in obvious conflict. It shows up in something much deeper, a distance from worship, a dryness in the spiritual life of the home. You may notice that the Quran is no longer being played the way it used to be. Prayer begins to feel heavier, dhikr becomes less frequent, the home feels quieter, not in peace, but in remembrance, and slowly, without realizing it, the heart begins to feel far. This is one of the ways the evil eye can harm a family, because the greatest goal is not only to disturb your dunya, but to weaken your connection with Allah. Sometimes a person says, I don't know what happened. I used to feel close to Allah. I used to enjoy praying. I used to feel peace when I recited Quran, but now everything feels difficult. The motivation is gone. The sweetness is missing. And you begin to wonder, why do I feel spiritually blocked? This is why this sign is so important. Because when worship becomes heavy inside the home, it is often a sign that something unseen is affecting the spiritual atmosphere. The evil eye does not always attack through obvious destruction. Sometimes it attacks through distraction, through laziness, through spiritual dryness, through removing you from the home. Because a home filled with Quran is protected, a home filled with BTE is guarded, a home filled with Allah's remembrance is a place where darkness cannot stay. So the evil eye and Shaitan work together in one goal, to make that home forget, to make Yoma'ah feel distant, to make worship feel like a burden instead of a refuge. A woman may notice she keeps delaying prayer. She keeps feeling tired when it's time to recite. She scrolls, she distracts herself, she stays busy, but her heart feels empty, not because she is a bad believer, but because the atmosphere has been affected. And sometimes the entire household feels it. The children become less interested in Islamic habits. The family stops gathering for Quran. The home becomes spiritually silent, and that silence is dangerous, because when Allah is not remembered, the heart becomes vulnerable. The Prophet that taught us that the difference between a house where Allah is remembered and a house where He is not remembered is like the difference between the living and the dead. That is how serious it is. A home without dhikr is not just quiet, it is exposed. And sometimes the evil eye enters through blessings that were admired. Someone saw your religious commitment. Someone saw your peaceful family. Someone saw your Islamic lifestyle. And envy touched it. Not everyone envies material things. Some people envy wool. They envy guidance. They envy the peace Allah placed in your home. So what happens? You begin to feel distant from the very things that once gave you life. And this is why you must respond quickly. Not with fear, but with return. Because the cure for spiritual distance is always return to Allah. Even if it feels heavy, even if it feels small, begin again. Play Quran in your home, even softly. Recite Surah Al-Baqarah because it drives Shaitan away. Make Ayat al-Kursi part of your daily routine. Teach your children Al-Falaq and An-Nas. Bring morning and evening adhkar back into the home like a shield. Say Bismillah when you enter. Say Assalamu alaikum with intention. Let your home hear Allah's name again, because Gom returns when remembrance returns. And do not underestimate small worship. 2 rakas sincerely, 1 page of Quran, a simple dua, a quiet moment of dhikr while cooking or cleaning. These acts rebuild protection brick by brick. And remember, the evil eye may enter quietly, but it cannot remain where Allah is mentioned. Spiritual dryness is not the end, it is a sign, a call, a reminder that your home needs more light, that your heart needs more connection, that your family needs more Quran. Because the strongest protection is not locks on doors, it is Allah's remembrance within the walls.